What's up, everybody? Today's special guest is a guy who got on my radar because he was also, or is also, moving in the podcast space. He was actually interviewing somebody that I didn't grow up with him, I didn't know him, but I went to his restaurant a lot, and we could talk about that once I introduce him. The man's name is Sean Martin. Sean, thank you for coming on the podcast. Oh, we gotta do Heat on the Feet with you later. I'm sorry, this is totally different. I just look at, I just saw your seat. Do we have to do Heat on the Feet now?
Got a new segment. Listen, I couldn't come in here and not be out.
You gotta be
on the sock game.
You gotta respect yourself.
I got the suburban shorties on as far as the sock game.
Well, Sean Martin, thank you for coming on the show. So I have a new format that I'm gonna try out, and you'll be my first. First, the name of this podcast is basically Two Motivated Guys, Two Motivated Men, right? Because everything I could tell online is you're into development, and to know that you kind of come from a similar background that I do, and we'll dive into that, and to also focus and be able to honestly discuss it openly, whereas where I came from, or maybe I'll take the extreme leap of faith and say maybe where we come from, that wasn't discussed, right? This is what it is, and stay in line, right? So first of all, where are you from, right? That's my new format. I'm going to give you it's three major pillar questions, but this is where we're going. Where are you from originally?
First of all, thank you for having me, brother. You've been on my radar as well. I love any Latinos, any people of color doing their thing to not only grow, but also share with the community, because like you kind of hinted at, where we're from and what we talked about off camera was there's not a blueprint. There's not really much of a healthy layout for how we're supposed to live our best life. So if we're able to overcome all the bullshit like we have and find a better version of ourselves, it's our duty to not only share that with the people we love the most, but to share that with the world. And that's when the blessings really start to come. So I'm originally born and raised Bronx, New York. I was born over on Unionport Road, the ghetto version of the Flatiron building over there, that kind of triangle corner, that little corner by the Bronx Zoo.
Park Chester area over there, yeah. The Silver Wall, people know.
No, actually, Bronx Park East 2 train.
Bronx Park East, all right. So
then we moved all the way up 2 stops to Allerton Avenue, Parkside Projects, born and raised. That's where I spent the majority of my childhood. Raised by a single mom who immigrated here from the Dominican Republic, came here in the 60s. And yeah, man, so Bronx is my stomping ground. I actually spent a few years right up the block on Underhill.
Living?
And Story, yeah.
Okay.
Right there.
We're at the View right now in Soundview, you know the building?
Yeah, man, so I'm a Bronx boy, born and raised. It's crazy because I'm writing a book right now called Beyond the Bronx.
I love it.
From Prison to Purpose. And there's a certain sense of pride that comes from being from the Bronx.
Yeah.
And there's a quote Cardi B said, it's like, it's just this fucking, it's like you're just proud to be from the Bronx. It's like like a notch on the belt.
Yeah, it's like yo, shit was really stacked against me. It'll let you know where I'm at, right? And I'm still here, and I'm still standing up, right? Yeah.
And everybody worldwide knows about the Bronx.
Yes.
I mean, you got a dude, famous MMA, Charles Oliveira, and he's Du Bronx. And this dude's from Brazil.
Right.
And he still credits being a badass with the Bronx because it's just that place, and it's the only borough and the only place I know with a V in front of it.
That's true.
So,
and that's where hip hop was born.
Yeah, and that too, man.
Can't take that from us. Nobody could take that from us.
So much history here.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're creating our own right now.
So you're ready? You're from the Bronx and college?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to, listen, I grew up good, man. I'm not going to lie. My mom was the first in her generation to graduate. So for all the people, aunts, uncles that came over here from DR, she's the only one that ever graduated college in her generation. Bronx Community College, City College. She was a social worker. So I got to see her get up and go to work every day. But we lived in the projects because one income's not going to get you out of there. So a lot of my neighbors were generational welfare recipients. I remember moving in the early 80s before crack took hold. And a lot of our, not a lot, but there was still holdover Jewish neighbors, Italian neighbors. We had white people still in the project. Those were the poor immigrants from generations prior that was still hanging on. And then you saw them move out in the mid-'80s when shit started to get a little crazy. They were like, listen, we out of here.
They start burning buildings for insurance money.
Well, thankfully, you know what? It's crazy because even in the Bronx, you got different sections, right? You go to Pelham Bay, you go to Pelham Parkway, you go to Throgsneck, right?
He's talking about the nice
fancy. Those are the nicer places.
So in Country Club.
Yo, but even Parkside Projects was nicer than Edenwald when you went a little further. So we were right there on White Plains Road before it started to turn into Little Jamaica. So we had a nice mix of blacks, Puerto Ricans, Hispanics. We had whites that stuck around too. Poor whites, obviously, that didn't get out. But
non-affluence. We'll say non-affluence, right? That's the word, non-affluence, bro.
Non-affluent white.
I'm a thesaurus.
He still create a clip out of that shit.
Non-affluent.
Get me in trouble. They were riding with us.
Right.
So we couldn't make it out on one income. But mom's got up every day, went to work as a social worker all her life, never made more than 50 grand a year. But she instilled in me two basic things, which is you gotta go to school and you gotta work for it.
Right.
And those were lessons that, lo and behold, all these years later, stuck.
Right.
And, you know, my neighbors didn't have that same luxury. And they had working moms too, a lot of them. But something about my mom was just different. So I give her a lot of credit, man. Shout out to mom.
Dude, mom was is an immigrant. So like my mom, I was born in Puerto Rico. So my mom's thing was go to school. And I was like, why? And she was like, so you don't have to do this shit. Like she didn't know what I was supposed to do. But she was like, this ain't it. She was like, do better than this. Like waking up 6 a.m., working 7 p.m. Her hands are cold. She'd be a meat wrapper. Her hands are frozen. And she's like,
the factory work.
Yeah, she was like, nah. It's like
you grow up with a dad or just moms?
My pops passed when I was 18, but he was in and out Vietnam.
Okay, so he was dealing with some things.
Heroin, you know, all that stuff. So he was in and out. Good dude. He was very funny. That's what I remember about him. My step-pop who passed recently too, he was in my life for like key moments, like kind of when you're like 11, 10 to 15, when you're kind of like trying to figure out what a man's supposed to be or what that looks like, or how to deal with confrontation and adversity on the street, because we're in the South Bronx, 196 in Jerome. So I was very happy. And the one thing I can tell you now with my psychology degree is I did modeling, right? So you would model things that were beneficial or something useful for you. Like you take character traits from people and you model after that, and you just discard what doesn't work.
And that's what the show's all about. My Real Mentors podcast is who were the mentors in your life? Where were the different roads that those conversations or those gems they dropped on you, you know, where they lead you, what they stray you away from? Or I had some bad influences too, where they, you know, stray me to go wrong. Okay. You know, certain things in my life that I did that I thought was okay, that was completely illegal and immoral, but it was like, whatever, it was normal behavior.
It was who you were around.
Correct. I mean, how many of us, you know, saw drugs growing up, you know? Cocaine in the 80s, pretty damn prevalent.
It's like anything.
So we see that shit growing up, so I chose to never do coke. Right. Now that I didn't do all kinds of other drugs, but cocaine was like, nah, that's the line I'm knocking across. But, you know, you saw alcohol, you saw drugs, you saw people looking forward to Friday because they were living an existence, like your mom said, you got to do something else.
Yeah.
They were just doing what they needed to do to survive.
Right.
But at this point in my life, I get to live.
Right. Well, thrive.
Yeah.
Right? You go from survival to thrive, right? Yeah. And how do you shift that mentality? What happened in your life? So for me, when my mom met my step-pop, like we were super poor, like, you know, Medicaid, broke. Like, don't ask for nothing to go outside and eat here, because that type of broke, right?
Rice and beans, 5, 6 days.
So we meet my man, and he's like, he's a white guy, he's a little mafia, and he's like, yo, let's go to a restaurant. I'm like, restaurant? Like, you know, we eat outside? Yeah, we eat outside. Like, and he opened my eyes to certain things. But I think that was one part of it. The second part for me became when I went to NYU, right? I did 4 years at NYU, actually 5. I took a semester off because I had a baby. And then I saw how the 1% live, right? And they just move different. They looked at the world differently. And I've always been humble enough to study. Like, if I don't know, like if we're in a room and you're high net worth, I'll be quiet because I got to learn, right? And and I say that on purpose because I want people to understand that I invited you on my show because I was inspired kind of what you're doing, but also I want to magnify it because that's how we really make a difference, by collaborating, right? We make waves, make a huge wave. If you can say, yo, guys can stand in a room, talk, and it's not a threatening thing. It's a straight up, yo, I appreciate what you do, is what I do. And me appreciating you does not depreciate me. And that's a big statement.
Unfortunately, our community, I'm seeing struggles with.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to pigeonhole or label people of color, but there is a certain scarcity mindset that exists in our communities that doesn't allow for that collaboration, that doesn't allow for that open-mindedness, because it's more about, well, if I give to you, what are you taking from me?
It's the scarcity mind.
Because you don't have enough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I always say, you know, now that I have it, money's not going to buy you happiness, but go out there and get that fucking money because you need to find that out for yourself. So all my life being broke, I was like, I'm gonna get this money. So I knew how to make
That was
money.
the goal. That was
young.
the goal.
That was always the goal.
Right.
And money buys you stuff. It buys you things. It buys you, first of all, things are not gonna make you happy.
Right.
Experiences I find do. So when we travel, like we talked about, I'm gonna go first class.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go oceanfront. Every time I
And
go,
this is not a flex, guys. This is just a decision of life.
if I'm gonna go visit a foreign country,
you want to do it
on the beach, I want to see the water. I want to hear that shit
Right.
when I open the window. And if I have the means to,
I should.
then I am.
Yeah.
And even if I don't have the means to, I've always been one to believe that it's worth it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I grew up, again, I got to give all praise to Mom Dukes, because Mom was like the halfway house. If you was coming home from jail and you was an uncle or you was a cousin and you had to beef with
pulled up
with my, your mom, and she kicked you out, you came to my house and you lived on the couch and for months and months and months
to figure it out. Yeah.
And our food was your food. And you know what I'm saying? It just, your generosity is what allowed me to be who I am. And that's why my logo's in the shape of a heart, because it's all about leading with my heart. I don't have any animosity. And another valuable lesson that I learned, and I'm going to talk dead into the camera right now, is to any young people out there, don't concern yourself with what the next man or woman has. What you have is the best because it's yours. That was the most valuable lesson I ever learned when I was complaining that my neighbors had this Nintendo fucking 64, whatever it was at the time. They had PlayStation. I was still stuck with Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
And my mom just had to give it to me. Like, listen, stop comparing yourself to other people. And then now bring it, full circle a couple decades later, you learn that in these rooms of self-development, which is comparison is the kiss of death. Because if you're comparing yourself to what the next person has, instead of appreciating what you have, you fucked.
The other way of saying it is comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah. Right? You can't be happy because you're busy looking, or you just to dumb it down a little bit, don't pocket watch, right? Like, don't, why? Yo, I want you to win, right? I want you because, one day I might need help, right? Or if I'm winning and you're winning, then we can do bigger things together.
Same thing happens with employees when you run a company.
Correct.
There's only a certain amount of time and years that if somebody's just coming in for a paycheck, it's not going to be long before they start to envy you as you continue to grow, you continue to enjoy the spoils. And they start to look at it, well, I'm the one making this happen because I show up to work every day. And nah, homie, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
If you went out and took out the chance on yourself, you took a risk on yourself, then you could provide these same things for yourself. But instead, you're playing it safe, you're trading your time for money. And again, you could give them all the nuggets in the world. You could give them all the encouragement in the world, and they'll still turn around and feel that way in the end. Unfortunately, this is just the reality of it because they are pocket watching.
Well, the biggest thing I'll add to that is, one thing people don't understand when they work with somebody like a high performer, right? I'm going to call you a high performer. I consider myself a high performer. Our time is super precious, right? Like, there's so many other things we should be doing. So we're giving you, I'm giving you game. Yo, do this. Yo, are you doing this? The fourth time I've asked you in the same week, did you do this? And you're not doing it, then what is it? What do you expect to be different? Like, people, I've heard this comment, yo, man, I want to do this. I want to help. I want to be like you. I'm like, yo, first, think about this. I've been doing this 20 years. So there's nothing that you could do unless you had a time machine and you had unlimited drive that you could make up for that.
And make all the mistakes
you had to make. So learn all the shit I learned. So when I look at something, it takes me 7 minutes, well, it takes you 2 days to kind of figure it out. I was like, but that shouldn't be the conversation. The conversation is, yo, what am I good at? How can I add value to this system and maybe grow the system, right? Because that's where people get lost. They're so busy looking at the person at the front. Yo, how do I make this bigger? How can I add value? You have an employee comes and adds value to you in a way you've never thought. You want to retain that employee. You're like, yo, man, let me put you on. Yeah, I want to keep you. How are we working this together, right? That becomes the thing, but it's rare. It's rare. Usually it's because they see the results of your labor. They want to kind of skip to the end.
What you can do.
Right.
They think it's easy because you make it look easy. But they don't see all the work that went into it. And it's like social media obviously doesn't help because there's that instant gratification mentality. Listen, it's a different generation. I embrace it. But when you grow up and you could just order food on DoorDash, or you can apply for 27 jobs in an hour because all you got to do is this.
And you don't have to meet nobody.
You don't got to meet nobody. You don't got to go fucking with a stack of resumes in an
envelope. Remember that?
Get dressed up in the summer, sweating your ass off, walking down White Plains Road from Allerton Avenue to Palmer Park with every shoe store, carpet store, deli, whatever, looking for a job. That's how we grind it. Yeah. So it's a different mentality. I've been working since I'm 12 years old, Summer Youth Employment Program. making shit. I want to say $3.25 an hour was the minimum wage, or $4.25.
I remember minimum wage like $5.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, and now 15 is minimum wage, which is sad because it's only triple. And I know the price of everything, inflation wasn't that.
Definitely outpaid.
But if you're an employer, it hurts. But the whole point is, it's a different time, and I just think that without that comparison, right? The beauty of our generation, I think, is we got to see the first cell phones invented.
I remember.
Like
$1 a minute.
Fucking
Cell one, $1 a minute.
You need a whole battery pack, and then your car phone. You was balling.
Yeah.
Then it was the Motorola flip phone, which is about the size of this bottle of water.
Yeah.
And we got to see that.
Right.
So we appreciate everything that's available to us. We used to have to go do a book report. We used to go to the library, encyclopedias, borrow encyclopedia from the 1 or 2 families in the neighborhood that might have had it. And them shits was like 10, 15 years old.
Good point. Yeah.
Microfilm. Going a lot. Like, you had to put the legwork in.
Yeah.
I had somebody, I'm not going to blow him up because he's a family member. I love him. He want to get his license. And he's like, yeah, I think you got to put in a certain amount of hours after you get the permit. And I'm just like, my man, it's fucking called Google. It's not that serious. Like, just, if you want to know the answer to something, all you got to do is Google it. You do the free chat GPT. The resources are all available.
Oh, then you got
It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on Instagram. It'll be on Facebook.
We're like, oh, how do I get to do the...
It's that simple. Yeah. Hey, Siri.
Yeah.
Hey, Google. And you ask it a question and it comes back with a fucking answer. But it's just, I don't know, that's missed.
Back in the day, remember, there was no, and this is going to date me, but, whatever. I'm with the right person.
We look good.
I'm with the right person right now. There was no real internet. When I went to college, there was a class called Internet because they were like, yo, you're going to be able to access all this shit. And it's not the way it is now.
Right.
You'd have the MS-DOS and all green letters, and you're looking, what the fuck am I reading, right? And there was still no Google search. There was no pull up any information you want. It was just, email was a new thing, right? That was a new thing. Oh, we're going to send you an email. And you would hope people were going to open the email. How many people didn't have computers, right? And it wasn't on the phone. You had to have a laptop or a computer and be by there. And then you had to plug in, and you didn't have a modem or Wi-Fi. You had to take your phone line out and plug in your computer, and then it had to dial in, and then you had to wait there and take a look. Like, who the fuck had that type of time, right? But I just to piggyback of what you're saying in terms of access. Now, you speak into a piece of metal, right, and it gives you all the, or even, I love the Ray-Ban glasses I'm using. You ask them, what am I looking at? It tells you what you're looking at. What the fuck?
Oh, the computerized glasses?
Yeah, the Ray-Bans, the Metas. I'm like, what am I looking at? Oh, you're looking at, if you close the eye, what am I looking at? Oh, you're looking at a dashboard. You're driving your car.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
try that out.
But think about that. Like, going back, you just took me back. I'm like, yeah, we had to run to the library, and we had to dig through books and look. I forgot the system we used to look up the card, and then you had to go find the book, and then, you know what I'm saying? Like, then you had to make copies.
The index card. The library index card. Oh, you youngers out there.
It was like a fucking...
It should have been conversation being an old as fuck like that, right? Oh, man. But
that's swing from.
To bring it full circle, life and everything in it is a matter of perspective, my brother.
Okay.
And because we have those two different perspectives, we can appreciate technology for what it is. Whereas if you were born into it,
you know nothing else.
All that for granted.
Yeah.
The ease through which life and information can be accessed is completely lost on you.
We had to work for it.
Normal.
We had to work.
And now you got ChatGPT and AI, and the people that are in an uproar about it, from my, I'm going to stereotype, but they're the intellectuals, the generation like us that had to do all the hard work, is kind of envious of the new generation. I mean, do we really need to fucking write? Again, if you have an app that's available to you that can write a paper for you, write a speech for you, create a website for you, and move your life, your mission, the value you're trying to add to the world forward, why are we knocking that? But that's the perspective. It's like, well, I did all this hard work, so why shouldn't they?
Yeah.
And I don't believe that. I believe we just need to embrace the technology that's available to us, integrate it into life. And as a wise friend of mine told me, AI is not the end of work, it's the end of boring work.
Yeah.
Monkey work.
Listen, it's basically, it's diminishing them because this is what they built their whole perception of who they are, part one. But part two is, I don't know if you use ChatGPT. I do newsletters sometimes, though. You can put some stuff in, but you got to go in there and add your own spice. If not, it's going to sound totally something else.
But now it's becoming your tool, so it's personalized to you. I don't know. I do the paid version. It's like $20 a month. And I think the free version will give you the same thing, but it learns from you.
Okay.
So as soon as you start punching in your information or asking it certain questions, or you have a social media page linked to that, it knows who you are, how you think, and it will give you responses that are more and more personal.
I didn't know that. See?
And that's only it's only gonna get better.
I'm learning game.
Again, and I say better because I embrace it.
Right.
Whereas old people, think about your parents. That ain't music. This is music. No, your parents are the same shit. They didn't like what you like. It doesn't matter what you eat. Don't make me shit. So I want to be, I guess maybe because I got young kids, I want to be a cool dad. My daughter told me I was cool the other day. I was like, what?
You can't be a dinosaur, man. You can't be a dinosaur. You got to say me.
Biggest compliment I ever got from my 7-year-old daughter. She was like, you are cool, Dad.
What about, and hopefully you don't get this, but I get this. My 21-year-old, he'll be like, hey, man, his pops is old. I'm like, how old is his pop? 50. I'm like, bro, that's how old. He goes, nah, but Dad, you different. Like, you take care of yourself. Like, you take care of yourself. You work out, we play ball together. Like, he's there. He's washed. And I'm like, well, that's a choice. That's a choice.
That's a choice, and unfortunately, it's a choice that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. I think I know we are running a program internally. And the more I've educated myself, I came to learn that human beings, no matter where you're from, no matter what color you are, no matter where in the world you're from, you're running a program that was downloaded on you from the ages of 0 to 7 years old.
Okay.
So unbeknownst to you, you are fucking helpless.
That's your operating system, right?
Your OS is running the same loop. And yeah, you might be able to crack the code and go a little higher. I always use the weight loss example. So I'm somebody who used to weigh 350 pounds, not once, but at 2 different points in my life. I've lost over a ton in my life, if you add up all the weight gains and fluctuations. And that's because as a kid, I was a fat kid. So every time I would get motivated or would get a reason, whether it be girls or basketball, or get into shape, I would lose the weight.
Right.
And then once I stopped doing that thing or that wore off, I would go back to that and then gain some more. And that is a quantifiable example of the same thing I just talked about, which is we're running a program that we don't even know we're running. So first, you got to be aware that you're running a program, and that's patterns. So if you can identify the patterns you're running and you can break the pattern and you can establish a new one, that's the only way that you're going to be able to change who you are at the core.
Right.
And a lot of times we dangle carrots. I want that thing. Let's say I want this car. So I got to work a certain amount of hours. I got to put away this amount of money. This is going to cost me this amount a month. And I want to get to that goal. For me, I stopped drinking a couple years ago. 3 years ago.
Thank you, brother. 6 months to me.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Congratulations, man.
Yeah. Same story with you, my wife.
We're going to celebrate with a wobble. There you go. Yeah. A little spike cap. Listen, best thing I ever did for myself.
Yeah.
Because...
Well, tell me why, right? Tell me why. What do you think? And remember, in 99, I owned a liquor store and a nightclub. So
I learned that about you.
I was in it, bro. Like, I was in it. Like,
listen,
so
it is a way for us to numb so many things. So if you were traumatized, it's a way for you to not think about it. For me, drugs and alcohol was a tool for me to put all those wishes and dreams that I had for myself on hold.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were so fucking scary. Now, everybody doesn't suffer from this. So I know that I'm unique. I love the fact that I'm comfortable enough to say that I'm a fucking unicorn, and I'm proud of it.
And you can identify it, right?
Yeah, but I always wanted great things for myself. And I think a lot of people do, but it's so foreign to them that they just give up on it. After a couple of tries, it's easier to just say, this isn't going to work out.
Yes, sure.
But the truth is, you just don't feel like you're good enough. And that's something we talked about. Every human being on the planet wants to be more.
Yep.
But they just don't know how, and everybody suffers from not enoughness. I'm not enough to do this thing. So for years, I wanted to be worth millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars. For years, I wanted to make impact and change lives. For years, I wanted to be a great husband. For years, I wanted to have kids, that were these dynamic kids in greater sports. But how the fuck am I going to do that? I don't know anybody. I don't hang around anybody. Marriage is puppet. I don't know anybody who's happily married. Yeah. I don't know anybody without kids that resent them. So I'm taking this data set of bad information and bad just examples and giving myself the belief that, well, I've never seen it work, so it can't be done. And alcohol and drugs allow me to just feed that fear.
Okay.
When I go to bed at night, my mind races because I'm worried about how we're going to get this next step going. What do we got to do to make this next thing happen that we want to do? It's a gift and a curse. The alcohol would just numb that. Smoking weed would just numb that. I didn't have to think about
cycle you down.
that, but then you're also not doing the things. because it's boring. Success takes time. It's like going to the gym. It's one rep at a time. You don't see any change in a day or week.
Jim Rohn says that the magic is in the mundane, bro. It's in the daily shit. You don't feel like it. Shit hurts today. Da-da-da. Find a way to do something. The way I've kind of navigated that lately has been, if I'm not moving forward every day, at least hold, right? And what I mean by that, if I'm not getting a PR or I'm not dunking the basketball, find a way to find a win and hold what you're at. Don't lose where you're at, right? And then tomorrow you feel better, move on, move forward. But that's been my little magic trick for myself, and I share that with people. Yeah,
you know, just not quitting is the key, unless it comes to something that's holding you back, like drinking.
Okay,
and that needed to be quit. So sometimes it's not about what you need to do; it's about what you need to eliminate from your life. And for me, it was drugs and alcohol, because those were things that were holding me back from my dreams and goals, and it was holding me back from being the best version of me. Right? There's no way, and again, we're big dudes. I don't know how you drank, but I drank with the best of them. And I wasn't a sloppy drinker. I would go, 4, 5, 6 in, and still be going.
Remember, I had the lifestyle where companies were bringing me, like, it's a whole thing. Like, when you have I'm gonna use drugs as an analogy. You have a spot, right? And they want you to push their new product. So they come, you make you a believer, bring in like test model girls and all that, and make it like a party.
Right.
So you're like, oh, this is great. Yeah, let's do it. And you kind of always...
You're always sampling and
you're always kind of like, you're never laser focused in. Because I was kind of like in the days, and you're kind of like, oh, yeah. And then as you get older, to recovery fucking loop was retarded. When I was 17, I would drink my face off and then come work out at 8 the next day. Now I drink my face off, I'll be gone for 3 days.
To be young, right? But here's the cool part. This generation is not embracing alcohol.
They embrace the other stuff.
Well,
I'm sure.
But, I mean, they're not embracing alcohol. There's a general knowledge that there's no amount of alcohol that's good for you, not even one drink. I mean, it's just not good for your nervous system. It's not good for your body. But I don't have, regrets in terms of that. Drinking was fun. Yeah. A lot of good times. Well, a lot of times I can't remember. I remember the worst.
Those are scary ones. Yeah.
Worst example, we came from the nightclub, and, I don't know, probably 20s, maybe 30s. And it's like, yo, we just texted him the next day. It's like, yo, fucking last night was dope. Had a great time. Yo, how we get home?
I thought you drove.
You drove everybody home. I was like, oh, shit, really? And then you think you got it under control till you don't. So thank God that I never killed anybody, driving drunk or anything like that. But there's no value to it. Again, if you're a drinker and you gotta have 1 or 2 drinks responsibly, this conversation is not for you.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody that you know in your heart that you don't want to drink anymore because it's not serving you, it's not serving your family, then that's something you got to address.
Yeah.
Why are you drinking?
Yeah.
It's to put something else on the back burner so you don't have to deal with it. Whatever that thing is. For me, it was success. I was so afraid of the things that I know I can accomplish in the world. They would take me so far away from Parkside Projects and where I started.
Right.
And I think my last 2.5 years is a testament to that. I mean, I've accomplished so much. I'm living the life of my dream since I started to fucking...
You stopped drinking, and then what changed? What was the magic moment?
Presence.
Okay.
My son was born. So we talking, he's going to be 3 in May, the end of the month. So, son was born, I was still drinking. Get up one morning, my wife, your breath smells like alcohol. And I tell the stories out there. And I was like, nah, literally wash my mouth out with Listerine because it's morning, brush teeth, all that. She's like, no, your breath smells like alcohol all the time. Because, it's just the teeth. It just starts to take that smell on. And, I'm drinking.
So you're drinking heavy.
I'm in the suburbs. I'm making money.
I'm not judging you. I want people to understand that, like, all right, so I had a partner in the liquor store.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
We had to break it. No, I'm going to give you the example, right? So one day, he comes in for his shift. And I gave him a hug. What's up, bro? And I smell him, and I'm like, yo, why do you smell like alcohol? Well, and that's when I realized this ain't the spot for him. And that was one of the reasons the partnership didn't work out. But I'm like, yo, bro.
Can't be alcohol. Like, monkey, you can't sell banana.
I'm like, my man. I was like, yo, you like it doesn't leave. I took a shower. Oh, you bugging? I'm like, okay, you took a shower, but there's something going up. I didn't have, I was 28 years old. I didn't have the education. I was like, I just didn't know.
It was normal.
This is the guy who gave me the idea to open a liquor store. So I was like, now I know why.
Well, I mean, when you're from the Bronx, right, what are the things you're going to do to be a successful entrepreneur? You're going to get a laundromat? you're going to get a liquor store, you're going to get a bodega.
Because that's all you see, right?
Those are the 3 successful businesses owned by Latinos,
right,
or blacks in a hood neighborhood.
Exactly.
Everything else is owned by Chinos, Arabs, Indians, whites.
Mm-hmm. And the owners of the real affluent things, you don't see them.
Yeah.
You never see them.
That's what we saw.
Right,
so the successful businesses. So
I mean, wait, back to your story.
No, not at all, brother. This is a conversation.
Yeah, she tells you,
conversations never flow.
You smoke alcohol.
Smells like alcohol. The gig is up. At this point, I know. I'm like, I wanted to quit for a long time.
Okay.
Bro, that's all it took.
Okay.
It took a comment from the person I love the most to just say that and point it out to me. I wasn't mad. I wasn't in denial. I just shut up, and I love to talk. Just like you. We do this all day.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I just shut up. Like something clicked.
You're like, yeah,
and
it's time.
It's time. So I don't know. I think it's probably June, July. And I ended up checking myself into rehab because I had tried to stop drinking.
All right, so you took it serious.
And there was one night in particular, let's say I'm 3-4 days out from drinking, and the butterflies. So I never get the shakes. I never get, the heavy symptoms that you associate with withdrawal. But alcohol can kill you from withdrawal. It's the only drug. Heroin, you fucked up for a few days, but you get over it.
Right.
Alcohol is literally the only drug that can kill you. And there was one night I was just tossing and turning. I was about 4 days into sobriety, but no medication, just trying to cut cold turkey. And the willpower's there, but my body's like, yo, I can't sleep. Yo, butterflies is tossing, turning. So you're miserable for nights in a row already.
Wow.
But I just got up and took a shot of alcohol. It was like a handle of Tito's, boom, shot it.
Went away. Everything went away.
I was like, damn, nigga, you're an alcoholic.
Wow.
It's official. So couldn't hide it anymore.
Yeah, and especially not to yourself.
Right.
That became
like my wife.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're home, but you're not present. You had downstairs watching Netflix by yourself because you don't want to deal with the family problems. You don't spend time with your daughter. Mm-hmm. So, luckily she never really got to see me like that because she was younger. But my wife suffered the consequences of it for years.
Right.
She a not present husband, you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that. But again, it goes back to what did I see growing up? I never saw a happy marriage. Never had a father around. So what I'm doing, I'm mimicking all the bullshit that I seen growing up. I'm running that program unbeknownst to me. So I checked myself in because at this point I can't do it on my own. Now I probably could have just got some benzos or something and the willpower might have got me through it. Might have. But again, I learned shit the hard way. So put myself in rehab. I plan ahead because I run a business. Can't just disappear. Right. It's supposed to be a 6-day detox. I end up beating in like 3 days.
Nice.
I'm an overachiever, bro. Right. So, I mean, I get in there, and this motherfucker's coming off all kinds of, like, drugs. And I'm in there for hours.
Yeah,
but
you're like TV.
They, you go to the window, and I've been in prison before, so it's like go to the window for meds. And this shit is crazy because the nurse is like, yo, you drink a lot. Like, you don't want any Xanny. And then, like, and you see people walking around the day room looking at zombie fire. And I'm just like, I've never been a pill guy unless it was ecstasy back in the days. So I just was like, nah, I don't want nothing. I just need something to help me sleep. So they gave me a strong allergy medication. I was out in 3 days. But then after that, I paid out of pocket for aftercare. I'm doing virtual sessions with a, sobriety counselor.
I'm doing the work.
I'm going to, 2 times a week, group and individual. I'm going to AA once a week. And again, a lot of fear came from telling the story because of embarrassment. But now that I've heard and inspired other people in my circle, be like, yo, I've been drinking a year, bro, it's the best thing, thank you. And that shit just lights me up. Yeah. But that's what we do. You turn your pain into purpose. Well, as I heard the other day, you turn your mess into the message.
Right.
I never heard that. So the other day, this young kid said it. And that's where the magic's at, is sharing your struggles because someone else is dealing with the same shit and doesn't know how to get out of it. So the same way we repeating the shit we learned growing up, people are repeating behaviors because they don't know another way. But if somebody they respect changes and shifts gears, you have the power to change somebody else's life. And if you change one life, you change the world for that person. So again, long story short, come home, do the work. 6 months, I go up to AA, and I land in this group called the 164 group out where I'm at. And it's Big Book Thumpers. So you got AA, this is like the hardcore Bible study. These motherfuckers are serious. All right. It's the only way you can be sober. AA is the way. And I'm just like, yo, it's not sitting with me. Like I was at the same time starting to go to self-development. I'm going to Tony Robbins seminar. A few months in, I got a sponsor for the first time because I'm reading the 12 steps and I'm like, yo, I'm blessed. I got a good heart. I got, I'm a personable person. Alcohol wasn't ruining my life.
Right.
but it was ruining me and all my potential. It was ruining my relationship with my wife and my kids.
Stopping all your potential.
Being my best self, right? But I wasn't out there like putting lives at risk and shit like that. Thank God.
Yeah.
So I'm at a crossroads here where like, can I make an excuse to say I'm not? Nah, I've already come to the realization that I am. First thing is I'm powerless over this addiction, and that I can never get over. I'm not powerless over anything.
Yeah.
But people need that structure, and God bless the program. Anytime I tell the story, I shout out AA. It's changed more lives than I could ever hope to change. And all those programs have changed millions upon millions of lives. But for me, I'm not powerless. There's no fucking way you're telling me that alcohol controls my life. Now, I would never pick up another drink because I know the consequences are not worth it. But to say that I'm powerless over the addiction, I'm a type A, bro. I've controlled every outcome in my life up to this point. This one's not going to be any different. 6 months, go up to the front. They give you the coins every month. Everybody clapping up. You're halfway there, Sean. Blah, blah, blah. I get back to the seat, and they're like, Sean, I turn around. I'm like, oh, yeah, my name's Sean. I'm an alcoholic. That was the last time I went to AA.
Really?
Because it was that was God telling me, all right, kid, you got what you needed. Right. Now keep diving into the self-development. Keep putting all the work in. Keep hitting the gym. Don't be fucking stupid. Don't ever pick up a drink again. You ain't got it like that. But I didn't need that structure. Like, I'm a rule breaker. I always have been. That's why I'm successful. You got to break the rules to be successful.
Well, I have a saying that innovation outpaces regulation. So,
okay. Listen, I mean, it's gotten me in trouble. But
yeah.
It's also, listen.
So let's talk about prison. You cool with that? All right. So what got us into prison?
Basically, running and gunning, fucking hustling.
Okay.
Despite having an education, I'm also playing the streets. I'm hustling. You know, I know people. I'm personable. I got connects.
You're connecting. Yeah,
I'm connecting people. Yo, you need something? I got you.
I got somebody. Yeah.
I'm going to make some points on the way in. So I'm not like hardcore, but I'm making enough money and I'm working at the same time.
Wow.
So again, it wasn't like I was all in, but I was straddling in the line. So I got a unique story in that not too many people go to college, then go to prison.
Right.
But I did because I didn't, the rules they didn't apply to me. Nah. I'm different. I'm different till I wasn't. So just running and gunning and being in the wrong place at the wrong time and fucking marked for a robbery, and it ended up not working out in the person's favor.
Wow.
And we don't call the cops where we're from. We take the law into our own hands. Shit got ugly. Violence ensued. And, people got hurt. And the truth is, that point in my life, fueled by drugs and alcohol.
How old is
and irresponsible decisions. 27.
Okay.
I ended up doing a bit, 2 years, 29 to
You think
31.
you're indestructible in your 20s?
Yeah, everything the testosterone is
You're superhuman. Yeah,
got no good examples. Nobody pulling you in to be like, yo, chill. I mean, running around making deliveries all night with enough work to get you locked up for a long time. That never caught up to me.
Yeah, and that's again. I never
took part too. You know what I mean? I'm not that dark.
Right.
Sean Martin.
Right.
Doesn't scream, Latino.
Yeah.
I get away with some of the features that I have because if we talk about, culturally, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans probably too. You're taught to marry up. The whiter you make babies, the better off you'll be. It's a harsh reality of it.
Did you know my mom?
Yeah, because you know what? There's such a self-hatred for the African part of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And I can only speak to that. I'm sure it applies to South and Central America too, but particularly in the Caribbean, there is a hate for the black skin that they have.
Yep.
I'm not Dominican. I'm not black. I'm Dominican. No, Papa, you black. In a lineup or you don't open your mouth, you're black. Black subject number 4.
I think
that's the reality. My aunts were all taught to marry.
I got checked that way. I was very young. I was like 17, 18. We're on the train, on the 2 train, and my man is smoking a cigarette on the train. This is how far back we go. It was illegal. Walk in the train, 2 cops. Pull us out, throw us against the wall, they're tossing you, and I get a ticket. So I was like, all right, whatever. Well, where we show up? Where we from? No, I'd never showed up. But where we from? I'm like, yo, all right. So whatever's happening, I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's him. I'm like, yo, it's us. All right. So so I look at the ticket, it says African American. I was like, all right. So right then I kind of knew. I was like,
Tiger Woods when they locked his ass up. He's black and racist.
Yeah, I was like,
this is African American.
All right. So now that was one of my lessons. Like,
that's the reality.
Yeah.
And that's why.
And those lessons have to be learned the hard way.
I grew up with African Americans. I grew up, I don't speak Spanish.
Oh, you don't?
Dominican and Puerto Rican.
Okay.
My mom speaks Spanish, but never taught me. We grew up in the projects, heavily African American. a lot of Puerto Ricans, but, second generation, not really.
Right, nobody.
We didn't grow up in the Heights. We didn't grow up out here in Soundview. We didn't grow up in the Latin neighborhood. We grew up in the hood.
Yeah.
So, if I speak and I'm on the phone, I don't sound like a Dominican Puerto Rican guy. Right. So that's part of my culture. I grew up on freestyle hip hop. Mm-hmm. So that's the diaspora of the Caribbean. But anywhere, once you get to New York City takes a hold. The flavor takes a hold of you.
Yeah.
And, I learned later on, and I had those conversations with my mother, and she said that, they were taught to marry up. My grandfather, may rest in peace, full nose, kinky hair, most racist motherfucker you ever meet.
Yeah, I guess his own kind.
Because just hate that African part of their heritage. Yeah. My grandmother was about as white as you can get with green or blue eyes. I don't remember. May she rest in peace. I really wish they were around to see me these days. But, damn, that got me.
Got you thinking?
Yeah, got me thinking, man. I wish, but it wasn't meant to be.
One thing I want to tell you about what we're doing right now is, and this is for you to think of, because this was brought to my attention. You asked me earlier off camera how long I've been doing this, right? So I've been documenting for about 5-6 years. And one of the main things that I never thought about, one of the guys that runs the media company told me, was like, you document yourself now, your grandkids will see you in your prime, the way you want them to see you. Right. Not, sitting in the chair with the cane, you fucked up. I was like, so, especially you have young kids, right?
Yeah, that's dope.
So you're going to tell that story later. When I was young, they're like, no, you're not. But I remember you seen that guy in the Bronx. Yeah, no, Dad, you legit. Like, those are like the other conversation I told you about my son. I was like, those are going to come. So think about that. Like, you're mentioning missing your grandparents. I mentioned that also because my grandpa was a big part of my life. Maybe I have 2 pictures with him.
Yeah, I only got a few.
Maybe if you could find them, right? Yeah. So, because pictures were hard back in the day. Yeah. You had to take a picture
with the fucking
plastic. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Polaroid?
The photo books.
Yeah. We had to send them somewhere to get developed. Like,
you didn't know what you got until they developed. Fucking half the film would just be trash. You can get like 4 good pictures out of the whole roll.
I know we dating the shit out of it, but just to let you know, the struggle is real.
And this is on my phone. I got like 15,000 pictures.
Terabytes of information. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. But again, perspective, man. So I my daughter's brown and beautiful, and my wife is Dominican, and I don't give a fuck about none of that. But I don't give a fuck because the chip is off my shoulder. Yeah. But for the longest, you struggle with that. Where do I fit in the world? And we talked about it before we got on camera. It was like, I want to be in rooms where color doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is how much value you're adding to the conversation. And you got to have money to be in the room. So money's not a conversation. Right. You have to pay to be in the room. You got a certain amount of money.
The fact that you're there,
that's a filter.
Means you right. You're verified, right? You're qualified.
You could go to let's say you go to a mortgage, seminar in the Bronx. A lot of people there that are just getting started, a lot of knuckleheads, a lot of people that are not adding value to the room. You might be adding value to the room. And that's not a knock on them. It's just you got a certain place.
You know what you bring
to the room. Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second. So I remember when I first started, like, I subscribed to thinking of, and you're the right person to have a conversation with, where the culture is you have to wear a suit, you have to look a certain way. Right?
Funny, I was trying on a bunch of suits yesterday because I'm going to Kentucky Derby in 2 days.
And going to Kentucky Derby.
I was fucking laughing because I'm texting my man, this dude out of St. Louis, who's the most impeccable style, suits all the time, but like official.
Next level.
So I haven't dressed in years because this is me. This is athleisure, whatever. This is how I dress now. I don't give a fuck.
Right. You don't have,
I got jackets and all that.
But the thing is, you dress up. Like, if you have to go to a wedding, you dress up. But you're not
for every meeting.
You're not looking for a job.
Yeah.
Right? Usually you're the one giving the job. Right? we're talking the same shit.
Yeah, same thing. You can wear Jordan.
If you're talking to somebody, usually they're either making more money or as much as you, so that you're basically trying to figure out how to get to the next level. Right. It's not about, I need a job, put me on. Right. You don't have to vet yourself. Right. And that becomes like when I first started, and I don't know, talking to you about like, that whole construct we make in our heads. If I don't dress this way, I'm not this. Right. And I'm like, no, you are this, but you just need the experience. Right. And the clothes, sometimes they lower the barriers in the beginning.
Correct. I mean,
give you credibility quicker.
Listen, to bring it back, the same reason that grandma and grandpa, abuela said, you gotta marry up.
Yeah.
Because the whiter your skin, the more you can fit in.
Right.
It's a savage.
The other thing, the whiter
your skin, the more you can fit in. We just came up with that one here. Oh, shit.
Yeah,
I'm in trouble for this interview with my Caucasian friends. But no, listen, I talk the same way with them.
Yeah.
They love me for it because it's unapologetic and it's authentic and it's real. But the only way you get to that place is through discovering who you're not.
Right.
And who I'm not is that guy that wears a suit every day so that I can impress you.
Right.
Now I'm the guy that we can impress each other. How can we help each other? Well, how can we just get to know each other?
Right.
My biggest fucking skill is people. My biggest skill is not crunching numbers. It's not QuickBooks. It's not creating value in a business sense. It is literally, I can go in a room and speak to a billionaire and not ask him one question about business because I don't give a fuck.
Right.
I don't. I make money the way I make money. You make money the way you make money. Who are you as a person?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to know. And that's genuine to who Sean is. Now, is that because I have my own? Yes. Not everybody has that. If you're just getting started, you want to know how you got to that place.
Right.
But that conversation is way different. And that billionaire, because I'm blessed enough to be in a room with people that are close or going or even there already, those are people that don't want to fucking talk about business.
Well, they've talked about it for such a long part of their life, right?
That's you want to be the other person that doesn't come that route.
Yeah, and
they're like, yo, I like that guy.
And the crazy part is, right,
they get to know you.
If they like you, then somehow, for whatever way, shape, or form, organically, they're like, yo, how do we make money together? Because I like having you in my life.
You hit the nail on that.
How do we do that, right? Like, what can we do? What can we do, right?
But you got to get that chip off your shoulder. So, we talk about Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins said, I got it from him, nothing relieves the chip from one shoulder like the feeling of success.
Okay.
I have found success in my own lane, and I realized after getting that box checked off where I have everything I need, I'm appreciative of everything I have, but money doesn't necessarily motivate me. But I know with absolute certainty my life is going to take off over the next 10 or 15 years. The money that I have now is going to pale in comparison to what I make in the next 10 or 15 years. This is a fact. Men make more money between 45 and 60 than at any other point in their life.
Okay.
It's a fact. So you're hitting the sweet spot.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Well, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And now we living longer. We living healthier. You drop your age, bro. You look fucking amazing.
Thank you, bro.
You think you ain't got 20, 30 good years left in you? My dog trainer was over there walking the dog. He's 73. I was like, what? Fucking looks amazing.
Yeah.
Now, he's a dog trainer, so this is not about
less
him.
stress.
But my point is we're living good, healthy lives should we choose to. All those things are available.
Right.
And that's when you're going to make money because you're wiser. You don't have to take every meeting.
Right.
You don't have to have every conversation. When somebody comes to you for advice, you willingly give it because you're not threatened that you're going to lose something because you have what you need.
Right.
How many people have you met, even on the show, that you just know they're selfish because they still haven't reached that point where they want to share what they have. They build something, but still there's something inside of them. There's not an awareness.
One thing I've noticed, right? So one of the richest people I interviewed, which will not be named, very good with numbers, actually a very cool person, right? But their culture was a little different when it came to the business part. So where I and I know this, I'm aware of this for myself, and I don't know if you're aware for yourself, but sometimes I'll look past the number because of my emotion.
Right.
And he's very, no, this is the number. That's it. Like, he's like, yo, that's what it is. And I learned that, like going back to modeling, right? I modeled that part of my business after him because he was like, yo, this is what it is. He's like, it has nothing to do with him being a cool guy. If the numbers don't make sense, then it shouldn't. Here's what makes it right. And that was a part for me that I had to kind of come to realize because I was highly emotional. I was like, nah, man, I'm put them on, look out. And you can do that, but there comes a point where you're doing damage to yourself.
Correct.
And then that's when it gets ugly, right?
I've lost millions of dollars.
Forget the money's one part, but then emotionally, right? Emotionally, there's that resentment that builds and this and that. And like, I become very aware of myself with that. I'm like, yo, I don't think we should, work around each other. I've had this conversation because I'm just in a different place than you are. I was like, so respectfully, I'm going to be over there. You stay over here. Let's do it. And I'm really giving you respect because the other way, if I'm the boss, I could be on some asshole shit. Right. And then eventually you don't want to quit anyway. Right. So I'm just respectfully, if you're good at your job, I'm going to leave you there. But usually if I'm indicating that I don't want to be around you, it's usually indicated that the door's...
It's a polite break.
The door's waiting for you. The door's waiting for you. Yeah. But I had to become aware of that because in the beginning, I would try to ignore it. And I'd be like, no, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. And then it doesn't work out.
Well, we see what we want to see, right? And men are notorious for that. And that's the beauty of balance in relationships is, there's business dealings I've done which blow up in my face, so I lose a ton of money. And my wife told me, this isn't a good idea. But I didn't respect her opinion. Right. So I went and did it anyway and paid for it. Now, I just learned the hard way because that's who I am. But now when any big amounts of money are being invested, exchanged, I actually want her to meet the person.
You get some counsel? Yeah. Come on.
Her instinct's always to not trust somebody.
Oh, okay. Her intuition.
I think women in general, their instinct is not to trust anybody. And then let's just talk about the beauty of, masculine and feminine. If you can find that balance in your relationship, that can be one of the most valuable tools that you have. And then we started the show, we're talking about family and how we came up. We didn't have that. You know what I mean? But
no example of that.
Yeah. No example of that and no knowledge of that. So that's another area of my life. I do the coaching based on the 4 M's. It's mindset, money, motivation, and mastery. And I think, money, mindset, motivation sounds sexier, but the truth is if you don't change your mindset, you're not going to make money.
Right.
All right. And then mastery comes last because mastery is the integration of all these things you learn into all those areas of your life. The mastery of your relationships, of your business, of your body, of your fucking relationship with your higher power, your internal self. All these things, again, now we can go a little deeper, but, there's energies at play that you have to be aware of. But again, this only comes with freedom and time and studying.
Right.
And in order for our people to get to a place where they're able to do that, they got to get that money.
Right.
Because money buys you freedom, doesn't buy you happiness. But what you choose to do with that freedom, that can give you fulfillment and ultimately give you more moments of happiness. Happiness comes and goes.
Right.
If you can find joy in what you're doing, then that's the beauty of it. But that only comes when you get enough resources that you're not married to a job or married to a business where you can step out of being, if you're fortunate enough to be an entrepreneur, you can step away from being a business operator to being a business owner.
Right.
Where the business is running itself and your money's making money. And then we talk about investing in real estate. I've been able to jump into the real estate game, tell you a funky story because it's who, not how. What I learned in life is getting around these very well-to-do people, they're a lot more helpful than you think because they don't have that wall. They're not trying to keep you at bay. If you become somebody that they take a liking to, they share information with you willingly.
Yeah.
They love to talk about what they do when you get to that point. But if you come out the gate like, hey, how'd you do this and how'd you do that? There's resistance.
It's almost like it's invasive.
It is invasive. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
I don't want to give you the sauce.
Yeah.
We get to know you as a person. I see you a few times at events, conferences, whatever. And when we finally chop it up at lunch or on the side or in the back of the room, we've gotten to know each other a little better, then the other stuff starts to work itself out. But that takes patience. That takes maturity.
And investment, right?
It takes investment. And
on both sides.
Yeah, listen, the greatest investment you'll ever make is in yourself. We joked about the sneaker game. How many of us don't got shit? It's, income tax season already passed in the hood. Or it's like, if you file late, it's coming now, right? But how many people blowing that money on dumb shit?
Yeah.
How many people are going to go take a course or get a coach?
No, because they don't see the ROI immediately.
There is no.
Well, going back to that, there's this micro and macro, right? So everybody wants quick hit of dopamine. Y'all want sneakers. I started buying sneakers for myself, I want to say maybe 4 years ago.
Because you can afford them.
Well, yeah, that, but there's other shit to do. We had to buy a house. I bought a building. I bought this building. I was moving my kids in college. So now I have a couple of things.
Guilty pleasure, right?
I'm like, what do I like to do? Right? So I forgot. So I ran into my man. So I was buying the sneakers for the kids for Christmas. So my boys, these guys own 2 sneaker stores. And they were getting to me before they come out, and they have to remain nameless because, that's not really legal. But anyway, so this kind of developed. I was like, should I buy myself a pair? He goes, yeah, bro, you should get a pair for yourself. And I don't know what I was wearing. I was wearing like some beat up shit. He was like, you driving up in your car looking crazy. I was like, I never thought of that. So now you start matching and, you start doing your thing. And you start developing
another pair.
You start developing that part of your personality. Like you want to, but that's only after the important shit's done. Right. Going back to the hood, we have our shit backwards. Like they want an instant gratification so hard to feel validated.
We're not taught that. I mean, listen, even what we're doing right now, the views, the numbers, they suck. If we were running around like that dude that did the fucking face wash and And
the running.
Because that's what people want. They want fucking stupid entertainment. Nobody's day really looks like that. All that fucking stupid edited garbage. But that's what the world wants, bro. They want to be entertained. They don't want to learn. They don't want to grow. So we're up against the wall trying to do something positive. This isn't the sexiest field to be in.
Yeah.
Like trying to help people and change the world. Fucking look at this guy.
Yeah.
I want to be entertained.
No,
listen, funny videos.
The first thing you get from, if you come in with that pitch line, it becomes, oh, you think you're better than somebody. Like, no, listen, I'm fucked up all day. Like, that's another podcast. Yeah, that's another podcast. I was like, but this shit I got. So let me drop this on you. Don't ask me about that shit. That shit I'm still working on. But this shit, I'm a master in this part. This little part, I'm good at this.
Listen, shoes, clothes, all that shit is like drugs and alcohol. It's masking the real problem. But you're empty inside. So shoes are going to make you look better. Because the heat on the feet, they're going to make you look fresh. People going to get it. Yo, them shits is hot, kid. You know, tell me about that. How much, how you got those? Cop 300? Was it Kanye? I spent the 400 to be like, you ain't up on this.
Yeah.
Dumb shit, but that's what we know.
Yeah.
That's what we see. Now, somebody you trying to kick knowledge? Nobody's trying to hear that shit. No. So I'm up against it too, because listen, I'm a kid from the projects, but like, that's not my audience.
Right.
Fortunately, that's
the great part is you're super unique.
Right.
When you go to your audience, because you have a totally different perspective.
Right.
Now you just got to figure out how it equates, how it translates.
Correct. It's a work in progress. Yeah. I just got off the phone yesterday with Dean Graziosi, who's Tony's partner. And we were like, he was gracious enough to give me 10 minutes of his time. And this is a guy who's fucking
worth a lot of money,
and his time is money.
Yeah.
And, I'm part of this group with him, and he was gracious enough to give me that time. And I was like, I had an honest conversation. I had called him like probably the end of last week, but we didn't speak to yesterday. And I was like, Dean, I didn't want to sound like a therapy session. I was in a bad place last week. I was just kind of circling the wheels. And, I came to the conclusion in a few days that we weren't meant to speak that day.
Okay.
We were meant to speak yesterday because I was in a better place mentally. And I realized it's just about patience. It's all about patience.
Yeah, because sometimes
not where you want to be.
Well, let me say this. Sometimes you're early. Right? You're too early for the audience. Or you're too late. So you got to stay kind of...
This is a dude to share his story. There's a little white guy from Albany area, upstate.
So that's nowhere.
Yeah.
No offense.
Yeah. Trailer Park, from what I understand, or very humble beginning.
Right.
Who's now Tony Robbins' partner. And he said to me, he's like, listen, if I was Tony, if I was invited to be Tony's partner 10 years prior, I would have blew it. Like the timing wasn't
right. He wasn't ready. Yeah.
So I'm still trying to find who my audience is. I do the community work because I want to help my people.
Yeah.
But I also know that my people aren't going to shell out money to get coached. They just don't see the value in it.
That's really fulfillment for you.
Correct. It is fulfillment because how many of us make it out and we're just like, yo, and to be real, I went down to 149th. We had our event at Hostos on 149th in the Concourse, which is the hood in the South Bronx.
Yeah, culture shop.
All right. Not really. I mean, I've been there. I've done that. I walked them streets plenty of times building my business.
But let's be honest. Once you leave for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
And you come back, it's like,
bro, my point was I'm walking up the block from parking the car and there's shit in the middle of the sidewalk. Like,
did you look around?
Where you
somebody pick this up?
Yo, how we living like that where you got a dog and you let it shit in the middle of the street
and don't pick it up? Yeah.
Come on now. Yeah. And then you expect people to look at you any different way.
Right.
And I'm not preaching to you. I come from there. I get it. I came up in the projects. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
Everybody got pit bull and they shit right in the middle of the walkway.
Yeah.
And then grandma comes by and walks on it.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. But nobody was there to tell them any different, let alone you ain't gonna spend money on poop bags to pick up your dog shit. So again, we that far behind.
Well, to your point on that, right? So this is my truth, and you can chirp on it there. So people people have to like, know, and respect you, right? So you have to build a certain base of acknowledgement that people are like, okay, he knows something. That's the only time when you can pierce the veil, because remember, the student, when the student's ready, the master will appear, right? Like, that's the only time. So sometimes
you're never gonna be ready,
and that's their problem.
Yeah,
that's not your problem. That's true.
I leave with my heart. I want to
help everybody
because we see it right now. Everybody's quick. I was on High 97 this morning.
Oh, yeah?
No, not high, like on the show. I was listening. Okay,
bro. You moving around, bro.
I'm gonna get there though. I'm gonna get
Right.
there. Although I don't know because yo, all they do every morning is rail on Donald Trump, and I'm just like, yo, really? Is that what our people need?
Dumb shit.
To believe that, yo, you trying to change the system that was never designed to service you.
Correct.
Instead of changing yourself. That shit is wasted energy, bro.
Correct.
Same thing during COVID, all my boys with the conspiracies, and I'm like, yo, a lot of them turned out to be right. And I'm like, now what? You just
What are you doing now?
motherfucker you was 6 years ago. What have you done to move your life forward?
I had a
Wasted energy.
I was with one of my homies, and they're like, "Yo, oh yeah." So I have a few things too, right? And they're like, "Yo, you own this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I own this." And you live there? I was like, "Yeah, I live there." He's like, "Damn, you different." So I had sat down for lunch with my man I haven't seen since high school. That's the 30 years. He goes, "Yo, oh, one thing I remember about you in high school." He was like, "You always kind of kept it moving. Like I was cool, but then I saw some craziness. I just, all right, man. I'll see you all later."
I was knew better.
I'm not about this life.
There's levels, man.
These
motherfuckers that's down bottom.
Yeah. So that's the one thing was illuminating to hear somebody else say it, because when you're a kid, you don't remember that shit. You just remember just surviving, right?
And listen, even when you kids, there's kids that's really bad.
Yeah.
And chances are they got no examples at home.
I'm not going to shout the guy's name out. He's a principal of school now. Good friend of mine. Shout out to you. You know who you are. And I told him when I ran into him like 3 months ago, I was like, yo, he's like, I'm a principal of school. I was like, a what? He was a principal. Yeah. No, I said, yo, you know my last memory of you was you throwing another kid through the trophy case in our high school? I was like, that's my last memory. And then he started laughing. He goes, yo, remember that? But that's the craziness, right? And running into him, like, I applaud him, and I told him, I'm proud of you. I mean, because I know where we come from. Like, I know, like,
right.
You could have been in the system, like,
right.
And look at you doing shit. He's like, yo, and you know, even now, he was very transparent, not in what he was saying, but rather the way his message was being delivered. Like, you know, he has the struggles, right? He's like, it's a daily thing, like, to check yourself. It's a daily thing to work. I'm just using that to work on yourself. It takes work, and the daily grind is not for everybody. They want, yo, how do I get to the end? I'm like, yo, you have to go through the middle.
Yo, it sounds corny, but you're in the world, so you know it. It's like you got to enjoy the journey. And, you know, we could come out with all the fucking cliches, but, you know, there is no end game. Mm-hmm. The truth is, I did well. I was like semi-retired. I used to joke I'm semi-retired. I done made it.
Right.
Yo, but if I'm comfortable, I'm miserable. Inside, I'm dying. That's why I just started leaning on the alcohol, because I wasn't doing anything to move my life forward. So
at that point in your life, you were doing well financially.
I was doing well financially.
Just trying to numb yourself. You like,
I was just like empty. I was way out in the suburbs.
Right. By yourself. Right.
By ourselves. Yo, we don't have, like, you know, we've transcended.
Yo, this is off camera, but we were talking about it took him a few years to go outside and walk through the neighborhood.
Listen, you know, my biggest fear when I came, you know, my social media was heavy. I made the decision almost 2 years ago to just start posting, and you could go back and just do this on my page and see the development from when it started to where it is now.
Right.
And I can't even imagine what it's going to be in 2, 5, 10 years.
Right.
All right. I'm going to be up there with the greats.
You put money up and the work.
But the point is, like, people just they don't appreciate the fact that the shit is a process, right? You're not gonna, there's no end game. There's no, like, you don't just hang it up. People that are A-type personalities, if you're blessed enough to be that, you got to keep going. You got to keep doing something. You hear about these dudes that retire and they fucking die 6 years later, 5 years later. You know, there's a lot of police officers that are on a job and they retire and then they drink themselves to death within a few years because that was their identity. And then, you know, that's the other thing here is, you know, you talk about motivation, and I would just challenge you, firsthand, I've learned it's not about motivation. It's not even about goals. It's about identity. So we talked about the alcohol and being able to quit. I don't know what your thoughts on it are. You said how long? A couple months?
6 months. Yeah.
So how did you quit? Why did you quit? And what's your new identity? So for me, it was, I'm not a drinker. I just started saying, when I'm at these dinners that I had to host, I'm not a drinker. You don't drink no more? Nah, I'm good. And, you know.
Yeah. And you get the look. You get the look. Yeah.
Bust your balls.
Yeah.
Bust your balls all the time.
The one thing I will say, part of it was my wife. My wife, she didn't want to drink anymore, and that was her journey. She was really into fitness, right? So I was like, all right, cool. The last time I had a drink, I was on vacation with the family, like 25 of us, and I had a drink because I was with my 30-year-old. My first time he's been on a vacation with me in our whole lives. my 21-year-old, my 20, like I had the whole crew together, so we had a drink for his birthday. So it wasn't like I was mobbing out. But going back to the 90s, I had the store, I had the club. I was deep in that life. I dealt with, people getting stabbed, shot at in the nightclub.
What was that club you at?
Candela on Castle Hill. It was a small little hole in the wall, but it was popping.
Been there.
Yeah, okay.
I knew you looked familiar.
Yeah, there you go. So think about that. Think about
After
that.
seeing you, I'm like, I know this dude from somewhere. And you just hit the nail on it.
It was just crazy. I was like, yo, like,
who was the other girl that used to own that too?
No, it wasn't the girl. It was just me and this guy Caesar, big heavy kid.
Thinking of another spot on Castle Hill then.
Okay. So then, anyway, we're there, and
Candela.
yeah. So we have the drink, and then that was it. And then I told wife, yo, I'm support you. Like there was no reason for me to drink. It was just something that was done socially. So wifey's not doing it, so I stopped doing it. So I started seeing results, and also I had my hips replaced 2 years ago. So one of the things I want.
You are getting old, bro.
Yeah. I feel a lot better though.
It's a basketball.
So when before the operation, I had to do a pre-op nutrition conversation, which I've never had in my life, and I'm like, all right. So they're like, well, what's your diet like? Then we're talking about protein and carbs, and I know all this shit. I'm out of nutrition, so I was like, yeah, I eat that. I do this. She goes, and no alcohol. I was like, yeah, it retards the ability to heal. Right. So I'm like, I know this, right? So it was always staring me in the face. It was just anyway. So I start getting, and I'm in better shape now. I'm in like 220s, and I'm like, yo, I don't want. I'm 50. I say that with pride. I don't want. There's no time to waste, right? For me, like that's the way I look at it. Like I want to get somewhere physically, mentally, spiritually. There's no time to waste. So if this is delaying me, it does not serve me. Get out of here, and that's it. That's really it.
We're at the age where you hear the term midlife crisis. Midlife crisis is because they had no purpose. They had no higher reason to continue going. They've done all the things. They followed society's rules as to where they.
They're retired at this.
They're working the job. They're making this amount of money. They bought the house, the suburbs. Their kids are going to college.
Now
whatever. Now what?
Yeah.
That's what a midlife crisis is. For you, it's just getting started. For me, it's just getting started. Mm-hmm. We get to reinvent ourselves.
Yeah. And then
that's the beauty.
You have a 7-year-old son.
7-year-old daughter, 2-year-old.
I'm sorry, 2-year-old son.
Almost 3, almost 8.
So you got time. You got time. So I have young men.
Well, we don't have time.
Well, no, that's the point. What I'm saying is that they're going to become little adults where they're going to have to make these decisions, right? So my guys are in the middle, right? And so going back to being type A and alpha, I'm like, ain't nobody going to be stronger than me in the house. Like, none of my, like, so that's part of it too. I was like, no, never. When you bury me,
you got an old man here in a couple of years. Like,
when he has to bury me, but the boys, they like to challenge that. Yeah, so gotta be ready for that. Also, I'm trying to show them how to be a married husband. Like, my middle one's getting married in 2 months.
Nice.
I like to think we had something to do with that. He saw us. It kind of worked. It became like the blueprint.
But they watch it.
Right. So and then I have my youngest who's going to graduate school next year. And then, we got to figure that out. Like,
you got boys, girls?
All boys.
All boys.
Yeah, all boys. So I'm not going to say what it is, right? But
my daughter is sent on this earth to challenge the shit out of me.
Yes. From what I understand, every man that I know who has a daughter,
wow,
it's your kryptonite. It's gonna give you your heartaches that like later on. Yeah.
But I selfishly say, I don't even pull punches. I'm like, it was my son being born that changed my life, because I knew now that was gonna be the replica, or at least that was the thought process I had. But lo and behold, my daughter's more likely gonna be more like than my son is. And she's already showing those signs because she's completely independent, really smart. She's actually like way bigger than all the other kids her age, even the boys. And then my son's kind of like little. Okay. Like my wife.
He's young.
And he said, no, he's young. I'm like waiting for a growth spurt. I'll be joking. I'm Uncle Phil. He's going to be Carlton. So my point is, I'm teasing, but like kids challenge you to become a better version of yourself if you're doing it right. Or you could just be a baby daddy, absentee father like, I had, like you had to some extent. They were dealing with their own shit.
Yeah.
But, again, I wouldn't have been ready years before. So, God put those kids in my life, my wife in my life. And I didn't even tell a story of how my wife came into my life a year before I went in. I celebrated our first anniversary 2 days after I turned myself in. So, again, God has a plan. Right. Everything has a reason. And whether you believe it or not, if you spin it and give it that perspective, you can create, that shift in your mind that, all right, this is happening for me, not to me. So I'm going to make the
That
best
changes the victim mentality, right? Everybody's doing, oh, it's not that. Listen, I'll give you a really deep example, and I know we've been on the show for a minute.
Sorry, editor's gonna have a
Notice, this is what it's for.
I love it.
A couple of things, though. I definitely think you and I will do an event together. I'm put that out there, so we'll talk about that later. But I was talking to my wife the other day, right? She's like my counsel, and my mother had 3 strokes in 2017, and I was her caretaker. I was everything, right, for 7 years. She passed last year, and I looked at my wife and I told her, look, I know it sounds weird, but I'm grateful. She's like, why? I was like, I'm grateful because I got to take care of her and I got to send her off with pride. And like most people, like during the process, that shit was the most painful thing I've ever endured.
So right? The person you
deteriorating, yeah, and then you scared they're not gonna remember you. Like it's some deep shit. That's another podcast. But like I had to change my mindset. I was like, yo, I gotta be grateful. Why? Because I was 10 toes and I held it down. Right?
Yeah.
You know,
and probably that's the closest you ever been to her.
Absolutely. Because she's like became my daughter. Like I was in charge, right? So I was like, yo, I have to look at it that way because, the other way of looking at it is, oh, I missed this. Yo, you got it. Like, and even when she had the stroke, like she didn't die suddenly. I was able to make peace and take care of it. Whatever. Look, during the lift, I call it the lift is, the 7 years. It was hard. But it didn't break me. It put me on my knee a couple of times. I take a breather, but I look at it that way. And not everybody would look at it that way. They'll look at it, another way. They look at it, oh, why me? Da-da-da.
And you're much stronger having gone through that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And
life experience.
And I've been there for friends of mine going through similar shit. And it's not disingenuous or oh, he's just preaching. No, I was there, bro. You guys saw me. You guys saw me break down crying. You guys saw all that. So like it became going back to your story when you're talking about AA, it became a thing because men of high capacity, they have an issue with being vulnerable, right? We're supposed to be this guy.
Right.
And all the time you don't got it. There's certain days you like, yo,
I ain't got it today.
I'm fucked up, right? But even being able to say that, like you have to have a certain amount of confidence in yourself because like I said before, like, yo, we gotta say shitty. Today's better, and let's keep pushing, right? But some guys go, no, it's good, until it snaps.
Right.
Until it breaks down, until they start drinking, until they start getting high, until they go on a bender for 7 days. I'm like, yo, where the fuck were you? Oh, like my life. I'm like, bro, like, you get it. So I mentioned that only because I think you're the right person to have the conversation with, but also it's a message I want to send to people because, and particularly men, because I feel that the masculinized man has been a little like broken down and toxic masculinity.
100%.
I get all that. I'm not saying that there's not some wrong guys like Andrew Tate. I'm just saying that, yo, listen.
And he made some good points too.
No, there's parts to it, right? Everything going to modeling. There's parts that you say.
I wouldn't want to be him. I wouldn't model myself after him. I wouldn't have my son model himself. Right. Like, he has no family. He has no children. Or maybe he has children. I don't even know.
Yeah, he would claim.
Exactly. No. I mean, you living that way, good for you, bro.
Right.
But like, there's a certain 20-something-year-old that could be labeled as toxic masculinity, and then there's a new age modern man that cares for his wife, that's there for his children, that balances being a man and being the provider, but also being vulnerable and being at soccer or basketball games, or having his daughter come and tell him something that a generation ago would have been taboo. These are all beautiful things.
Yeah.
My father's approach to parenting, which was, he wasn't around, so I can't even.
Absentee, right.
I had none.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then there's other people that wish they didn't have a father.
Yeah. So pick your poison, right?
So pick your poison.
Yeah.
Your journey's your journey. You want to blame your parents for the bad shit? You better blame them for the good stuff, because I'm sure they did some things good. But this is the conversation, right? Are we gonna keep blaming, or are we gonna take responsibility
and change it?
Now, my fault. How's this my fault? All right, maybe things happen to you in your life, trauma, abuse, sexuals, mental, emotional abuse, things that happen that were not your fault, you should have never went through. But if you continue to allow that to control your life, then that is your fault.
And you never change.
And nobody else is responsible. They did that to you. It's fucking terrible. If you choose to stew in that, that is your fault. And that's the generation that we're in right now. It's easier to blame the system than it is to change. There's people crying that they should be able to get 2 seats because they weigh fucking 400 pounds on an airplane.
That's crazy.
Yo.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Or you can't walk down the middle aisle of a fucking airplane and it's the airline's responsibility. Again, why are we embracing it?
What about the big girls that can't get into little cars and they want us to Uber or Lyft?
Is that a thing?
That's the thing.
I don't doubt it.
That's the thing.
Listen,
I was like, what?
mental health, there's people with real mental health issues, and then there's fucking people that just decide that they're going to focus on the problem. And that's what we have now is people that are focused on the problem. And you get what you focus on. If you choose to fucking blame somebody for all the things you've been through in your life, that's your choice. Now, maybe because you don't have the tools, you don't have the role models, you don't have the examples. And it's human nature to be on the lookout for danger. So it's easy to fucking be negative.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all know people that the glass is always half empty.
Yeah.
There's people in my fucking life that are like that. And, you know, they have to be in my life. And I'm like, are you not hearing yourself right now? There's people that you don't want to pick up the phone for because you know it's going to start with some bullshit.
Yeah.
As opposed to you go on a coaching call, let's celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
What's going good in your life? And that sets the tone for your day, that sets the tone for the call or whatever, the conversation. But then there's people that, oh man, you don't know what just happened to me. I was like, let me guess.
Yeah.
Bro, it's like they just a fucking black cloud following them, but it's a black cloud of your own creation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? At some point, that's the toxicity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's toxicity that you decided to lean into because change is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Unfamiliar is hard. Yo, I had to create the guy sitting in front of you, but this guy sitting in front of you is nothing like the guy you're going to see in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
That guy's going to look back on this guy and look at this sloppy motherfucker.
Right.
Look at this broke, sloppy motherfucker.
Well, keep transforming, right? Like
just always, bro, but that's my journey.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I know that I had enough. So I went from somebody who never saw marriage work, never saw family, never wanted any of those things, made all the mistakes, did things right, did things wrong, but at the end of the day, I always took responsibility. I never gave up, and I kept wanting more for myself. And I realized there's certain people that have a capacity for more, and I'm one of those people. I think you're one of those people too. I don't think you're living at your fullest potential right now.
Me either.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
And I know that. You got reserves to give more to the world. And you come from here. So you got to give unselfishly. I challenge you to give unselfishly. Whatever you're doing, double, triple, quadruple it because you got so much more in you. And our people, the only way they're going to fucking move the needle forward is through generational progress and through people coming back, sending the elevator down, showing them love through compassion. And then also, you know, understanding that there's a certain percentage of people in knuckleheads that just, this is human nature. That's regardless of where you come.
Like Tyler Perry says, some people can't live at a certain altitude.
Yeah, that's a great word.
Show about one of them. They
left in the car.
They're just not there. Yeah.
Yo, talk about, you know, sexual abuse as a child and he buried his fucking abuser.
Yeah. That's
paid for the funeral. How powerful is that?
Yeah.
Because he didn't, you know, come on, man. We got plenty of examples if we choose to look at them.
Right.
But if you want to look at the fucking problem, there's plenty of that too. And the algorithms is a fucking nightmare.
And those
keep feeding you that. It'll keep feeding you that. It knows exactly what's going to keep you on, right? What's the saying? If they're not selling you anything, you're the product.
Yeah. And
that's the curse. But then, you know, it's a blessing too because we're making, you know, making pushes on it.
Making our own product.
Correct. Yeah. We talked about it too, man. Listen, it's a tough game we're in, trying to, you know, better people, but it's so worthwhile, right? And I know we got to wrap, but I'll just say this. I've always had something that I believe, which is that when I pass away, I want the line to be around the block.
I like that.
That's how I know I made a difference in the world. And yeah, I could stop with my family and we moved to the suburbs and I could go to soccer games and do these things. And that would be fucking completely acceptable for me. I won already.
Yeah.
But there's more. There's more. We know we built for more.
Yeah.
So it's on us, these big ass shoulders that we got,
to
carry some more load for the people that can't. You know what I'm saying? Joe Rogan, another guy who gets a bad rap. But, you know, he said the other day, because he's pretty liberal, but they pigeonholed him into being on the right. And he was like, listen, some people, you know, I don't believe in that pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Some people don't have boots. Some people don't have straps.
Yeah.
And that's where we come from.
Yeah.
So if we got it now, it's on us.
Well,
So fucking go back and give back.
I'll wrap with this one is that we should do more because we can do more. That's it. That's just it.
Mine was a long-winded.
No, but that's just it. But that's just it. Like, why you? Oh, why you? I'm like, well, because I'm smart enough. Like, because I like, how many times do I like, yo, oh, how'd you do this? Oh, well, this is what I did. And they're like, well, how'd you know? I was like, well, I researched it. I said, this is the issue. I got to figure this shit out. Or even use another example. Like, I've had family members that come into some sort of money and I tell them this is what you should do. No financial gain on my side at all. Like, yo, this is what I would do.
And chances are they don't do it.
And no, they do. They do. And I'm happy for them. And then, somehow.
I would, but.
No, listen, I'll give you one last piece. And I knew that I was made to impress upon the others. First person to buy a house was me. I told my mom I'm going to buy a house. She was like, oh, what about me? I said, all right, let's buy one together. I'll buy a house. A year later, my aunt's like, I got a lawsuit. Do what you did for your mother. That was it. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, find me a house and give me a loan. Like, do the whole, this is before I was in real estate. I was in the liquor store still. I was like, all right, well, my boy had some tax problems. He was like, yo, I need money. That works. Got her in too. I started moving my people. Like, everybody, like, and this is before I knew about this profession. I got recruited into this profession by a Jewish guy at the liquor store that wanted to buy Bronx buildings, but he was white, so nobody was like talking to him.
Right.
So I learned that game.
I was this colonizer.
Yeah. They're like, what the fuck is this guy? He was like, yo, this is what I want to do. He explained to me, like, I had never met nobody in the real estate game. So he explained to me, so you find me a property, I buy the property, I pay you 6%. Like, he broke it down for me. So I'm like, yeah? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. So I did one, got my first check, did another one. I was like, oh shit. So these numbers, like, I'm making $6 on a bottle of Henny. I'm making $30,000 on a transaction. I was like, and I don't even got to fucking clean up puke and deal with, crazy people. So I was like, all right. And he owned the bank. He just kept putting me on. His win was I was a great generator. So he was making money with me, which is great. My win was I took that as an education. I wasn't pocket watching him. I didn't care what he made because I knew if I learned this game, I can do it for me eventually. And that was always my thought process, right? Going back to why when people look at, they'll go to work for you and they're like, oh, Sean, he's rich. Bro, how can you add value? That should be the first, when you walk into a company, especially if it's a small company, how do I add value? Because I can become integral, right? I use that word on purpose, guys. Integral. So niggas, they can't just throw you out. Like, yo, man, I want to keep this guy. You find a way to keep good people around you as an employer. I find, even when COVID hit, I found a way to keep everybody employed because they were good people. I felt bad, losing them. So as the CEO, you find creative ways to do shit. And we just do that. Anyway, I know I said I'm going to rap like 5 times. Sean, if you need coaching, where do they hit you? Please look in the camera.
Follow us at therealseanmartin.com on IG, VSeanMartin, THE, because we fancy like that. SeanMartin. Follow us on YouTube, Real Mentors Podcast, where you had a Lewis on as a guest soon enough.
I'm in that.
Feel like making that trek out to Long Island.
I'm in that guy.
And just stay tuned, man. We're doing big things. We're coming back to the community. We're paying it forward. Give unselfishly. You are your best investment. So make sure that if you have a fire inside of you or some kind of burning desire that you want to be better, it's time to realize those feelings that you have. But the only way you're going to do it is by changing your environment. And instead of buying that pair of sneakers, go out and buy a course, invest in yourself, start reading YouTube, internet. All those things are the most valuable resources in the history of the world, and they're being wasted on entertaining you to pass the time. Thank you for having me on, my brother.
Thank you. Assholes Storm are everywhere, and the only thing I want to add to that is you have to be ready to learn. That's it. Like, you can do all that. It's like, oh, Omar, I want to get in shape. All right, well, stop eating cake. Oh, I can't. You're not ready yet. You're not ready yet, all right? We out. Thank you.